Last weekend, three individuals I consulted with were able to uncover their ancestors' records and the tribe they belong to thanks to my personalized guidance. Unlock the secrets of your family history with a genealogy consultation. Whether you're just starting out or need help with the tribal citizenship process, I'm here to guide you through every step of the way. As a Black Native American and a proud member of the Muskogee Creek Nation, I offer a unique, personalized approach to genealogy tailored to your specific needs and stage in your journey. Reconnect with your family roots and uncover the rich history of your ancestors. To book a consultation, email me at mike@keymediapro.com with the subject line genealogy.
The Flicks Tape.
They have no future as they have no past. Tomorrow as today, slavery will be their only possible privilege.
We gods, man. We kings, man. We lords.
I was born black, I live black, and I'm gonna die probably because some cracker that knows I'm black better than you, nigga, is probably gonna put a bullet in the back of my head.
This is the remix. My father was raised in the era when black niggas couldn't claim Native American.
Aborigines, which means what? Black folks. But you never find a white aborigine. Rather, aborigines are called natives, or they're always dark-skinned people. You and I are aborigines, but you don't like to be called an aborigine. You want to be called an American. Aborigine actually means from the beginning. Two Latin words, ab meaning from, origine meaning the beginning.
Great shock around the age of 5 or 6 or 7 to discover the flag to which you have pledged allegiance, along with everybody else, has not pledged allegiance to you. It comes as a great shock to discover that Gary Cooper killing off the Indians when you were rooting for Gary Cooper, that the Indians were you. That the Indians were you. It comes as a great shock to discover that the country, which is your birthplace, and to which you owe your life and your identity.
Remember that big Indian dude in that movie? Mm-hmm. He was cool. And then he couldn't talk unless he was talking about gum?
Yeah. I think you're not supposed to say Indian either.
No way, really?
Yeah. I think you're supposed to call them African Americans.
Oh, you're shoemakers now. And more importantly, you're a person of color. You're no longer a Nipmuc person. And that shows through in these county histories and also in the census records at the time. You find a person described in the 1860 census as an Indian. In the 1870 census, they're described as a person of color or a colored person. Same person, but the census taker, as part of the white dominant society, decides that this person is no longer Nipmuc.
Since y'all always screaming about DNA, watch what the biology professor says about DNA. Watch this.
Smith's breakdown from Ancestry showed 97% European and 2% Asian.
I'm a black girl. I am not a Jewish white lady. I'm black. My parents were black.
She contacted Ancestry with questions, but says a rep told her the results are accurate.
These DNA tests for ethnicity are entertainment value only.
William Gilliland is a biology professor at DePaul. He says DNA kits can be great for connecting family members and finding relatives, but the science for ethnicity testing isn't as concrete.
There's nothing that confident for ethnicity. There's no diagnostic nucleotide. You can say this person is from Europe, this person's from Africa.
You see that? DNA can't tell you where you're from. A scholar tells the truth. Watch this.
But many African Americans, you are the Native Americans. You're not even African Americans, you're Native Americans. You're the ones that they brought blankets with, was it smallpox or whatever diseases, and wiped out entire communities because they said they came in peace, but they actually came in war. And they are still warring us right until this day. So there are those beloveds of you who really don't feel any connection to Mama Africa. And this is just, a confirmation, a reassurance that America belongs to you.
So Africans know this history, but nobody else does. Come on, make it make sense.
In me. And so with the help of my wife, we extracted enough saliva to send off in the mail. We were so excited to see the results. After about 3 months, we were shocked. My lizard was 51% Ashkenazi Jewish. He was also 48% West Asian. This was really interesting. They also gave us a little bit of his background and his history, what he liked to eat, etc. Let us know which animal's DNA we should send in next.
You don't have to try to be something you're not.
Trying to be something I'm not? Trying to be proud of my African heritage? That's being something I'm not, then fine.
My grandmother was a full-blooded Iroquois.
I know all of that, Mama.
They know this. I am alive because of the blood of a people who never scraped or begged or apologized for what they were. They asked only one thing of this world, to be allowed to be.
It broke my heart when you changed your name. I gave you my grandmother's name, a woman who bore 9 children and educated them all. Who held off 6 white men with a shotgun when they tried to drag one of her sons off to jail for not knowing his place. And you had to reach into an African dictionary to find a name that would make you proud.
My father was raised in the era when black niggas couldn't claim Native American. Making music would've thought I had help, but the Indians I know wanna be the chief they self.
All right. Let me get some fists and feathers in the chat if you can hear me loud, crisp, and clear, and we'll go ahead and get this party started. Hit the like button on the way in. Make sure to share the video. Hit the Cash App or the PayPal if you support the mission. Today we are learning about a Black Indian hero, y'all. A Black Indian hero. Now, you guys know me as the King of Receipts, and we are going to get into some heavy-handed receipts. But guys, for the first time, I'm going to bring to you some information that is a little bit inconclusive. I'm going to bring to you an original theory of mine. When I call this man a Black Indian hero, that is 2 part. For one, he was definitely a hero to Black Indians. For 2, I theorized this man was a Black Indian himself. Well, Mike, what evidence do you have to suggest that this man had Black Indian heritage? We're going to go ahead and get into the receipts, but this man, Chito Hacho, it's not pronounced Harjo. The correct pronunciation is Hacho. Chito Hacho. Chito Hacho is a man that's very, very well documented throughout history. He comes from a royal lineage. His father was a very esteemed member of the tribe. We even know his entire speech that he delivered to Senate. He led the last Indian slave revolts in the United States of America. But for some reason, history won't tell us his mother's name. We know his father. We know his father was a full-blood Indian. We know so much about Chito Hacho. We know so much about the history surrounding him. His whole entire family tree is mapped out. But when it gets to his mother, they won't even give us a name. Guys, we're about to learn in a moment that this period in history that we're about to investigate is a period in time where Indians were beaten into submission. Indians were assimilating, acquiescing. They were allowing Europeans to marry into their tribe, just like that trailer to the movie that came out this year. Y'all have seen it with Leonardo DiCaprio. It's called like Tales of a Flower Moon or something, about how the white dudes marry the native girls to sell their land and their oil. These natives were buck broken. These natives had already sold out the Black members of their tribe and were treating them as slaves, running plantations because the government gave them an ultimatum. The government said, you guys need to form constitutions. We're going to tell you how to run your tribes. You need to start running plantations, and you need to enslave the melanated black members. And that's when, throughout history, we had Indians that were reclassified as Negro and slave. So when we look at that period in history and we realize that Indians were buck broken, trying to suck up to white folks, if anything, they're trying to hurry up and fuck a white person so they can be more white passing and stuff, right? When we get into the anti blackness from the Indian community, we're gonna learn that maybe that's the reason why we know so much about Chito Hacho, but they won't even give us a name for the mama. How we got the full name for the daddy, but not even a first name for the mama? But wait, there's more. We're gonna learn that Chito Hacho was a revolutionary who fought and risked life and limb for black Indians. He literally caught some bodies, took some bullets, had to go on a run, hit some licks on behalf of black Indians. Why would a full-blooded Indian who let's theorize that he had no black ancestry. Why would he, a full-blooded native with no black ancestry, why would he ride so hard for black Indians at a time when Indians was hating on black folks? Why would he do that? It makes no logical sense. It would have made his life more difficult. Oh wait, maybe if he felt like he had a kinship to this black Indians because his mama was one. Let's talk about it. His mama could have been a Negro from Africa. It could have been a Indian Negro, could have been a mulatto, but for whatever reason, him and his family did not want his mother's identity to be revealed. So let's go ahead and get into the content, shall we? And I'm going to show you guys just how thorough I am. I'm going to show you guys why I'm revered as the king of receipts, because why don't we start with the white man's version of Chito Hacho? And let's see how Mike TV's version differs from the white man's version.
Roy V. Hoffman, with his family, came to the territory in 1889, first settling in the Sac and Fox Reservation. He then moved to Guthrie, where he founded the Guthrie Daily Leader, the first daily newspaper in the Oklahoma Territory. During the Spanish-American War, he joined the Oklahoma Territory Battalion of the 1st Territorial Volunteer Infantry Regiment as a private, but was soon commissioned as a captain. Meanwhile, Chito Harjo, it is believed, was born around 1854 in the Creek Nation. Nothing is known of his early life except that he was a follower of the leader of the federal element of the Creeks during the Civil War. When the Congress created the Dawes Commission for the purpose of inducing Indians to agree to the allotment of their lands, Harjo at once became the acknowledged leader of the dissenting faction. He continually warned his people that allotment of lands would lead to the final step in white man's domination over the Indian. Chito Harjo became known to the whites as Crazy Snake. From 1900 to 1909, Harjo led and coordinated resistance to the federal government's interference in Creek tribal.
Come on, y'all. Let's take a peep at the white man's version of history. This dude can't even pronunciate his name right. It's not Harjo, it's Hacho. Come on, get with it. Get with it.
Affairs. The Snakes, as the group was known, formed their own breakaway Creek government and abided by their own laws and rulings. The headquarters for this insurgent group was the Creek ceremonial site known as the Hickory Grounds in present-day Okmulgee County. And it was there that Harjo and Hoffman would meet. Governor Charles Haskell ordered Hoffman to take his guardsmen to quell the Crazy Snake uprising near Henrietta in 1910. The militia found no armed resistance nor any evidence of a snake uprising, for the full-bloods were still in their hill country homes. Meanwhile, the sheriff had secured a warrant for the arrest of Crazy Snake, whom he considered to be the cause of the trouble. The old snake at this time lived in McIntosh County at the base of Tiger Mountain. The sheriff and several deputies went there to arrest him. They fired at him without warning. Crazy Snake was shot in the hip, and Charles Coker, his lieutenant, was shot through the chest. Chito Harjo lived with his friend Daniel Bob for the last several years of his life. He died in distress from the gunshot wound on April the 11th, 1911. Hoffman, meanwhile, went on to a distinguished career in the Army and Oklahoma National Guard, eventually commanding a division in World War I.
Come on, y'all. That's the white man's version of history as it relates to Chito Hacho. Very bland, No seasoning, dry as hell, inaccurate, missing so much context, couldn't even pronunciate his name, calling him Crazy Snake without the proper context. Guys, when it comes to indigenous dialect, words have deeper meanings. So we're going to learn in a minute um, how my own native name is related to his, what the true meaning of Chito is in Muscogee Creek Nation language, and what the true history was surrounding Chito Hacho, because it's way deeper than that surface level BS little video that that white dude put together. I mean, that was appalling, boring, lackluster. It does not do this man justice. So let's get into some of the true Aboriginal history, shall we? And make sure to hit the like button on the way in, share the video, hit the Cash App or the PayPal if you support the mission. Let's go ahead and get into it, y'all. Let's get into it. Chito Hacho. Now, first and foremost, let's start with the name. Chito Hacho, also known as Crazy Snake. Guys, when it comes to Crazy Snake, when it comes to the indigenous dialect, we're going to learn that crazy does not mean what you think it means. When we hear the word crazy, we think psycho, we think mentally unhinged. No, crazy in indigenous language is actually something very prestigious and brave and honorable. So let's get into it. Chito Hacho, also known as Crazy Snake, also known as Wilson Jones, also known as Bill Jones, Bill Snake, and Bill Hacho. See, people had like 4 or 5 different names back then, y'all. 4 or 5 different names. He was born 1846 and he died 1912. He was a leader and orator among the traditionalists in the Muscogee Creek Nation, my tribe. In Indian Territory at the turn of the 20th century, he resisted changes with the U.S. government and local leaders wanted to impose to achieve statehood for what became Oklahoma. These included extinguishing tribal governments and civic institutions and breaking up communal lands into allotments to individual households. Yes, guys, at that point in time in history, our tribe had huge swaths of land, and they wanted to break up our land into individual parcels so they can segregate us, weaken us, and then turn Oklahoma into a state. This was before Oklahoma was even an official state. Before it was a state, it was Indian country. It was the area where they shipped all the 5 civilized tribes from the East Coast. They shipped them to Oklahoma. And now we're on Oklahoma, and they trying to divvy us up and give us land allotments and mess with us all over again. It says here these included extinguishing tribal governments and civic institutions and breaking up communal lands into allotments to individual households, with the United States sales of the surplus to European American and other settlers. He was the leader of the Crazy Snake Rebellion on March 25th, 1909, in Oklahoma. At the time, this was called the Last Indian Uprising. Yes, this man performed the last Indian uprising. And peep game, they were trying to extinguish our tribal governments and our institutions and breaking up our land into individual allotments so they can give the extra land to European Americans and other settlers, so they can give our lands to immigrants. Let's talk about it. Early life. Born in the Muscogee Creek Nation in Indian Territory after the tribe was removed from Alabama in the 1830s, Wilson Jones was a Muscogee Creek Indian. He was better known by his Creek name of Chito Hacho, meaning crazy snake. Chito means snake, and Hacho means to be brave without regard for one's personal well being or crazy brave. He was a traditionalist belonging to the minority of the tribe who remained loyal to the Union during the American Civil War. Peep game, y'all, he's an American hero. Most of these tribes sold out to the Confederates and were fighting to keep slavery alive in the South, was fighting to keep the Confederacy intact, but this man was fighting for the Union during the Civil War. Later in the century, traditionalists worked to reinstate the tribal government of 1867 and to enforce treaty rights with the United States. They opposed the extinguishing of government and allotment of lands to households under the Dawes Commission. Career. While a young man, Chito Hacho was allied with the Federalists or Loyalists led by, oh, I'm going to butcher this one, Ope Theola, who moved the group to Kansas in 1861 with the start of the American Civil War. They remained loyal to the Union when most Creek allied with the Confederacy. He and many of these Creek men were recruited to the Union Army and served with federal forces in the Civil War. In testimony in 1906, he said that he had believed this service in a war between the white men and one which did not concern the Indians would help ensure the maintenance of government promises to his people. The Civil War divided the tribe as many Creek were allied with the Confederacy. In the late 19th century, the Muskogee Creek and the other American Indian tribes in Indian Territory were pressured to change by the U.S. government, in part to make way for a demand for statehood by European American settlers in parts of their territory. Yes, guys, they were trying to take over Indian country and turn it into a state. They were trying to turn it into the state of Oklahoma and bring in a bunch of foreigners. There was national legislation to extinguish tribal government and to establish individual household allotments of land in place of tribal communal holdings. Congress created the Dawes Commission in 1896 to carry out the allotment of lands for the five civilized tribes. The Dawes rolls were the registries of tribal members who were eligible to receive allotments. These became a record of tribal members. And yes, guys, I'm not kidding. Over the weekend, out of the people I met with, three of them, when we did our genealogy consultation, I met with three separate people where we were able to find their ancestors on the Dawes roll and link them to the tribe that they're associated with. And one of these people was your classic elder black woman who always heard from her grandma and heard from her family, we Choctaw, we Choctaw, we got Indian blood, we Choctaw. And guess what? She got with Mike. We went through the documents and we found her ancestor, not theorizing to be Choctaw, but listed as a tribal member of the Choctaw Nation. You cannot do this with a DNA test. You can only do this with a paper trail. You can only do this by tracing your genealogy. But let's get back into the content. Chito Hacho was a leader in the Four Mother Society, an intertribal religious movement. This group sought to revive the traditional practices and solidarity between related tribes that had been relocated to Oklahoma from the southeastern United States. In 1900, a meeting at Hacho's ceremonial grounds of Old Hickory declared the chief, Pleasant Porter, deposed for having violated the 1867 Creek Constitution while cooperating with the allotment process. They selected Chito Hacho as the new principal chief of the Creek. They founded a police force known as Light Horse and attempted to dissuade the Creek from accepting allotment of lands. So, guys, he's a revolutionary. He's an activist. The government is trying to convince the members of the Creek Nation to abandon their community land and instead accept personal land allotments. It's like if all of us on this live stream, right? If all of us had like 500 acres of land and it was all collectively our land, and the government's like, nah, let's give like 1 acre to each person, and any leftover land, we're going to sell it to foreigners and they're going to turn it into the state of Oklahoma. And this is after the Trail of Tears. This is after they were already taken away from their original land in Alabama. So you see how sick this is. You see how grimy, right? Come on. And Chito's going around trying to convince members of the Creek Nation to not accept the land allotments. He's trying to convince them to not go along with what the Europeans want them to do. From 1900 to 1909, Chito Hacho led Creek resistance to the assimilation changes. He's saying, hey, stop marrying all these white dudes. He's saying, hey, stop trying to assimilate into European culture. He's saying, hey, why are you letting the people who've been killing us and taking us over, why are you letting them dictate how we live our lives? Come on, he was blowing the whistle. It says here the Green Peach War took place in 1901. Put a one in the chat if y'all never heard of the Green Peach War. I know I hadn't. And Ispart Hercher retired. He had been a judge in the Upmogli district and leader of loyalists. Hacho led those Creek who opposed cultural assimilation and allotment. As the U.S. was trying to extinguish tribal government, Crazy Snake and his followers set up a separate government for a time at the Old Hickory Stomp Grounds southeast of Okmulgee. Chito Hacho and others were arrested and convicted in U.S. court and imprisoned briefly. They were released on parole. During the next 5 years, the majority of the tribe accepted the changes and were allotted individual plots of land in preparation for the territory to be admitted to the statehood as Oklahoma. Do you see how grimy this is, y'all? We ain't even talking about the black folks that got reclassified and placed on plantations alongside African and European slaves and then became known as the freedmen. And then some of these civilized tribes kicked them out the tribe, and then the freedmen had to petition to be recognized as members of the tribe. We ain't even talking about all that, but just the fact that they got pushed from Alabama, sent through the Trail of Tears, and now years later, the white folks is coming to take their land again. Come on. All in preparation for the territory to be admitted to the statehood as Oklahoma. Chito Hacho and other snakes refused to choose their allotments. In 1906, members of a special Senate investigating committee visited the Indian Territory to learn more about the issues and why some of the Muskogee Creek people were resisting changes. Hacho, as a recognized leader of the traditionalists, testified at length to the senators. His speech to the U.S. Congress in 1906 is considered an eloquent statement regarding U.S. treatment of Indian peoples. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, when I read to you in a moment the speech he gave to Senate in 1906 regarding the U.S. treatment of Indian peoples, guess what? It's going to include us black folks. We're going to get into it. Come on. It is often quoted for the phrase, as long as the grass grows, used in regard to the promised perpetuity of Indian treaties and agreements with the U.S. government. In 1909, after Oklahoma had achieved statehood and passed Jim Crow laws like those of neighboring states of Arkansas and Texas, a group of African Americans, ding, 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 guys, here comes the revisionist history. Here comes the reclassification. Here comes the bullshit. Hey guys, how were they saying that in 1909 a group of African Americans came to Hacho's ground seeking refuge? How in 1909 did a group of African Americans go to Hacho if African Americans didn't exist until 1988? Oh, and I was on mute. Let me get a one in the chat if you guys heard anything I just said. We're having a little bit of technical difficulties. Bear with me, guys. This is live content after all. But yeah, it's interesting how in 1906 they're claiming that African Americans went to hot shows seeking refuge, but African Americans didn't exist until 1988. I mean, these were what, black Indians that were reclassified? Were some of these people African slaves? Yeah, sure. Um, were some of these Yamasi Indians? Oh, yes, most definitely. Let's talk about it. And yeah, earlier I was muted, but I was addressing American Black Holocaust survivors comment. I was saying that my main microphone broke on me recently, and I'm using a backup. So yeah, my mic actually goes in and out. So that's not you, American Black Holocaust survivor. Um, that's just my crappy mic. Thank you guys for putting up with it for the time being. But yeah, guys, this is very very interesting. They're saying a group of African Americans. All right, a group of African Americans, but we wasn't around labeled as African Americans until 1988. And in 1682, they reclassified Native Americans and lumped them up with Africans as Negroes and other slaves. So we already know more likely than not, these were Black Indians. And let's see how Hacho treated Black Indians at a time when Indians were anti Black like a motherfucker. Indians was hating on black people like white supremacists, but let's see how Hacho treats these black Indians. A group of black Indians came to Hacho's grounds seeking refuge. They had faced discrimination and been driven out of other parts of Oklahoma. During the time of the March meeting of the Four Mother Society, local European Americans said that a piece of smoked meat had been stolen from them. Fearing an alliance between the Creek and the Black Indians, basically an alliance between the pale-face assimilated Indians and the Black Indians, they called together a white posse to break up the black encampment. Damn, guys, they didn't want the black natives clinking up with the rest of the natives. They said we got to get a white posse to break up the black encampment. A melee ensued in which one black man was killed, a white man wounded, and 42 blacks were arrested and jailed. Whites began to get arms, wanting to break up the Creek Black encampment and to arrest Chito Hacho, known as a conservative leader. When a group went to his house, a gun battle broke out. Two white deputies were killed quickly and others wounded. Hacho and his followers escaped to the old Choctaw Nation. They were helped by fellow members of the Four Mother Society. This became known as the Crazy Snake Rebellion. The Oklahoma governor, Charles N. Haskell, ordered a militia to pursue the Creek conservatives and restore order to McIntosh and Okmulgee counties. The commanding officer found that whites were causing most of the problem and forced the disbanding of posses in the area. Hacho took refuge with Daniel Bobb, a Choctaw conservative leader, in McCurtain County, Oklahoma. He died in 1911 without being seen again by white enforcers. Come on, y'all. Talk about a black Indian hero. And now this is where it's going to get deep. This is where he's going to really ride for black folks. Let's take a look at the testimony he gave to the Senate. Let's take a look at what words he was quoted saying to the Senate. Come on, y'all. They were strongly opposing breaking up the tribal lands into individual allotments. And Hacho told the Senate investigating community that, quote, I will never stop asking for this treaty, the old treaty that our fathers made with the government, which gave us this land forever, as long as the grass grows, water runs, and the sun rises. Hacho gave this further testimony. Buckle up your seatbelt, guys. Get your popcorn. It's about to get deep right here. It's about to get deeper than you can ever imagine. They say black Indians don't exist. Well, let's see what Hacho has to say about that. Quote, I will begin with a recital of the relations of the Creeks with the government of the United States from 1861, and I will explain it so you will understand it. I look to that time to the treaties of the Creek Nation with the United States, and I abide by the provisions of the treaty made by the Creek Nation with the government in 1861. I would like to inquire what had become of the relations between the Indians and the white people from 1492 down to 1861. Let's break character. Let's step away from the speech for a moment. Let's reflect on what he just said here. He's saying, hey, the Creek Nation had a deal with the government since 1861, and we've been following it. But has the government been following their treaties made with the Aboriginals from 1492 to 1861? We all know the answer is hell to the hell to the hell, nah, nah. Quote, my ancestors and my people were the inhabitants of this great country from 1492. I mean by that from the time the white man first came to this country until now. It was my home and the home of my people from time immemorial and is today. I think the home of my people. Away back in that time in 1492, there was a man by the name of Columbus who came across the great ocean and he discovered this country for the white man. This country which at that time was the home of my people. Peep game, y'all. Here we go. Your mind's about to get blown. This is what he told Senate. What did he find when he first arrived here? Did he find a white man standing on this continent then, or did he find a black man standing here? Guys, I'm going to pull a Umar Johnson. We're going to repeat this 2 more times. What did he find when he first arrived here? Did he find a white man standing on this continent then? Or did he find a black man standing here? One more time for the people in the back. What did Columbus find when he arrived? Did he find a white man standing on this continent then? Or did he find a black man standing here? Why is Hacho writing for black folks so hard? Why is Hacho at the Senate talking about black Indians if black Indians never existed? Why, if the Asian Mongol looking immigrants from the Bering Strait, if they're the true Aboriginals, why didn't he say yellow skin or copper even or no, he said black. He said black. Come on, y'all. Did he find either a black man or a white man standing on this continent? I stood here first, and Columbus first discovered me. So, goddamn it, when I promote the theory that Chito Hacho was a black Indian hero, that he actually had black lineage, that he was a melanated man, well, goddamn it, they don't want us to know nothing about his mama for some reason. But Hacho's in the Senate talking about black folks was here first. I stood here first. Columbus discovered me. Guys, based on this evidence that I'm submitting to the court of public opinion, do you guys think that Chito Hacho had black lineage? Yes or no? I don't know why, in a time when Indians were anti black, that he would be at the Senate promoting black Indians. I don't know why he would do that. I don't know why he would refer to himself as a black man if his mama wasn't black. I don't know why he would do that. Did he find either a black man or a white man standing on this continent? I stood here first, and Columbus discovered me. I want to know, what did he say to the red man at that time? He was on one of the great four roads that led to light. At that time, Columbus received the information that was given to him by my people. My ancestor informed him that he was ready to accept this light he promised to give him and walk these four roads of light and have his children under his direction. Let's break character, guys. Let's step away from the quote for a moment. We're going to learn why the Indians accepted Columbus. We're going to learn why the Indians welcomed Columbus with open arms, because Columbus gave them a solemn oath. Columbus gave them a promise. Columbus said that he would do for them something so fantastical. Columbus lied. Columbus cheated. They got hoodwinked. Peep game, y'all. This is what Columbus told them. This is what Columbus told them. He told them it was all right. He told them the land is all yours. The law is all yours. He said it's all right. He told them, I will always take care of you. If your people meet with any troubles, I will take those troubles away. I will stand before you and behind you and on each side of you and your people. And if any people come into your country, I will take them away, and you shall live in peace under me. My arms, he said, are very long. Columbus was kicking some game to the natives, wasn't he? Columbus had a mouthpiece like a mother. Columbus was kicking some pimp shit low key. Columbus said, anybody mess with you, I got your back. You gonna be in peace forever. Just go work the blade for me, baby girl, one more night. Nah, come on, guys. Columbus was giving some grand promises. He said, if any people come into your country, I will take them away, and you shall live in peace under me. My arms, he said, are very long. He told him to come within his protecting arms, and he said, quote, if anything comes against you for your ruin, I will stand by you and preserve you and defend you and protect you. There is a law, he said at that time, that is above every other law, and that is away up yonder, high up. For, said he, if any other town or nation or any other tribe come against you, I will see through that law that you are protected. Damn, Columbus said he was even going to protect him from the other natives they was beefing with. Columbus said, I'm your Venus, I'm your fire, your desire. Columbus said, I'm your first, your last, your everything. Come on, y'all. It does not make any difference to you, he said, if as many as 12 other nations come against you, or 12 other tribes come against you. It will not make any difference, for I will combine with you and I will protect you and overthrow them all. God damn it, y'all. God damn it. Columbus said if some Lord of the Rings type shit pop off, if some Game of Thrones type shit pop off, he said if 20 Indians, excuse me, 12 Indians, 12 tribes, 12 nations, if 12 different armies come at you, I will rock with you. I got your back. We locked in. We kinfolk. Come on. Columbus was lying, lying, lying. I will protect you in all things and take care of everything about your existence, so you will live in this land that is yours and your father's without fear. That is what he said, and we agreed upon those terms. He told me that as long as the sun shone and the sky is up yonder, these agreements shall be kept. This was the first agreement that we had with the white man. And again, guys, the man who's saying all this is Hacho. Hacho's at Senate. He's saying, hey, Columbus saw black people here, not white people, and he gave this agreement to us black Indians, and he broke the promise. He said, as long as the sun rises, it shall last. As long as the waters run, it shall last. As long as the grass grows, it shall last. That was what it was to be, and we agreed upon those terms. That was what the agreement was, and we signed our names to that agreement and to those terms. He said, just as long as you see light here, just as long as you see light glimmering over us, shall these agreements be kept, and not until all these things shall cease and pass away shall our agreements pass away. In plain English, he said for the rest of the world. He said until the sun becomes a supernova and burns us to a crisp. He said until an asteroid takes us out like the dinosaurs. He said till the end of the world, I will rock with you. I'm your man. I'm your nigga. I'm your Niji. I got you. Columbus is rocking with you. And years later, they enslaved, raped, butchered, and chopped up these people, and enacted biological terrorism. But this is how they came in, right? They came in real friendly. That is what he said, and we believed it. I think there is nothing that has been done by the people should abrogate them. We have kept every term of that agreement. The grass is growing, the waters run, the sun shines, the light is with us, and the agreement is with us. Yet for the God that is above us, all witness that agreement. He said to me that whoever did anything against me was doing it against him and against the agreement. And he said, if anyone attempted to do anything against me, to notify him, for whatever was done against me was against him, and therefore against the agreement. He said that he would send good men amongst us to teach us about his God and to treat them good, for they were his representatives, and to listen to them. And if anyone attempted to molest us, to tell them the missionaries, and they would tell him. He told me that he would protect me in all ways, that he would take care of my people and look after them, that he would succor them if they needed succor and be their support at all times, and told him that it was all right. And he wrote the agreement that way. Now, coming down to 1832 and referring to the agreements between the Creek people and the government of the United States, what has occurred since 1832 until today? It seems that some people forget what has occurred. After all, we are all one blood. We have the one God and we live in the same land. I had always lived back yonder in what is now the state of Alabama. We had our homes back there. My people had their homes back there. We had our troubles back there, and we had no one to defend us. At that time, when I had those troubles, it was to take my country away from me. I had no other troubles. The troubles were always about taking my country from me. I could live in peace with all else, but they wanted my country, and I was in trouble defending it. It was no use. They were bound to take my country away from me. It may have been that my country had to be taken away from me, but it was not justice. I have always been asking for justice. I have never asked for anything but justice. I never had justice. First, it was this, and then it was something else that was taken away from me and my people. So we couldn't stay there anymore. It was not because a man had to stand on the outside of what was right that brought the troubles. What was to be done was all set out yonder in the light, and all men knew what the law and the agreement was. It was a treaty, a solemn treaty. But what difference did it make? I want to say this to you today because I don't want these ancient agreements between the Indian and the white man violated. And I went as far as Washington and had them sustained and made treaties about it. We had terms of peace, for it had been war, but we made new terms of peace and made new treaties. Then it was the overtures of the government to my people to leave their land, the home of their fathers, the land they loved. He said, "It will be better for you to do as I want, for these old treaties cannot be kept any longer." He said, "You took away off to the west, away over backward, and there you will see a great river called the Mississippi River, and away over beyond that is another river called the Arkansas River." And he said, "You go way out there, and you will find a land that is fair to look upon and is fertile. And you go there with your people, and I will give that country to you and your people forever." Guys, this is them selling the Trail of Tears to the Indians, right? This is them selling the Trail of Tears. Hey, so you're gonna hit the Mississippi River, then you go and hit the Arkansas River, and if you keep going, after the Mississippi River, go past the Arkansas River, then you're gonna hit some fertile land. They're talking about the Oklahoma Dry Desert, y'all. The fertile land that they were gonna get to is the Oklahoma Dry Desert. Okay, and your people can live there forever. He said, "Go way out there beyond these two rivers, away out the direction of the setting sun, and select your land, what you want of it. And I will locate you and your people there, and I will give you that land forever, and I will protect you and your children in it forever." That was the agreement and the treaty, and I and my people came here and settled on this land, and I carried out these agreements and treaties in all points and violated none. I came over and located here. He's talking about how they moved to Oklahoma through the Trail of Tears. And now, modern day, they're trying to take their land and turn it into the state of Oklahoma and give them little land allotments, right? What took place in 1861? I had made my home here with my people, and I was living well out here with my people. We were all prospering. We had a great deal of property here all over this country. We had come here and taken possession of it under our treaty. We had laws that were living laws, and I was living here under those laws. You are my fathers, and I tell you that in 1861, I was living here in peace and plenty with my people, and we were happy. And then my white fathers rose in arms against each other to fight each other. They did fight each other. And what he's referring to is the Civil War. They did fight each other. At that day, Abraham Lincoln was president of the United States and our great father. He was in Washington, and I was away off down here. My brothers divided into factions and went to war. When the white people raised in arms and tried to destroy one another, it was not for the purpose of destroying my people at all. It was not for the purpose of destroying treaties with the Indians. They did not think of that, and the Indian was not the cause of that great war at all. The cause of that war was because there was a people that were black in skin and color who had always been in slavery. In my old home in Alabama and all through the south part of the nation and out in this country, these black people were held in slavery, and up in the north, there were no slaves. And mind you, guys, when he's talking about these black people, we have to realize he's speaking now in the 1900s. When they reclassified Indians as Negro and made them slaves, they did that as early as the 1600s. So this was before his time. Hacho had no way of knowing some of these black people are Indian, some of them are African. He had no way of knowing that Indians were in that mixture. He had no way of knowing. Let's get into it. These black people were held in slavery, and up in the north, there was no slaves. The people of that part of the United States determined to set the black man free, and the people in the South determined that there should not, and they went to war about it. And that war, the Indians had no part. It was not their war at all. The purpose of the war was to set these black people at liberty, and I had nothing to do with it. He told me to come out here and have my laws back. And I came out here with my people, and I had my own laws and was living under them. On account of some of your own sons, the ancient brothers of mine, they came over here and caused me to enroll along with my people on your side. So he's saying, look, I'm not a slave. I live in Oklahoma. Y'all forced us to move to Oklahoma. Y'all in the South, in what used to be our land, and y'all fighting over whether these black people are going to be free or not. I don't have nothing to do with that. I'm in this whole different land. I'm living my life. I'm not up running plantations. I'm not a slave. But still, they were enlisted by the Union to fight. I left my home and my country and everything I had in the world and went rolling on towards the federal army. I left my laws and my government. I left my people and my country and my home. I left everything and went with the federal army for my father in Washington. I left them in order to stand by my treaties. I left everything and I arrived in Kansas. Oops, sorry guys. And I arrived in Kansas. I mean, it was at Leavenworth where I arrived. It was a town away up in Kansas on the Missouri River. I arrived at Fort Leavenworth to do what I could for my father's country and stand by my treaties. There at Fort Leavenworth was the orator of the Federal Army, and I went and fell before the orator of the Federal Army. It was terrible hard times with me then. And that day I was under the sons of my father in Washington. I was with the Federal soldiers. I am speaking now of this orator in the Federal Army. I went and fell before him, and I and my people joined the Federal Army because we wanted to keep our treaties with the father in Washington. You see how they refer to the president as the father in Washington, right? Things should not have been that way, but that is what they were. The father at Washington was not able to keep his treaty with me, and I had to leave my country, as I stated, and go into the Federal Army. I went in as a Union soldier. When I took the oath, I raised my hand and called God to witness that I was ready to die in the cause that was right and to help my father defend his treaties. All this time, the fire was going on, and the war and the battles were going on, and today I have conquered all and regained these treaties that I have with the government. I believe that everything willfully and fully came back to me on account of the position I took in that war. I think that I thought then and I think today that is the way to do. To stand up and be a man that keeps his word all the time and under all circumstances. That is what I did, and I know that in doing so, I regained again all my old treaties, for the father at Washington conquered in that war, and he promised me that if I was faithful to my treaties, I should have them all back again. I was faithful to my treaties and I got them all back again, and today I am living under them and with them. I never agreed to exchanging of the lands, and I never agreed to allotting of my lands. I knew it would never do for my people, and I never could say ABC so far as that is concerned. I never knew anything about English. I can't speak the tongue. I can't read it. I can't write it. I and my people, great masses of them, are unenlightened and uneducated. I am notifying you of these things because your government officials have told me and my people that they would take care of my relations with the government, and I think they ought to be taking care of them as they promised. He said that if anyone trespassed on my rights or questioned them, to let him know, and he would take care of them and protect them. I always thought that this would be done. I believed that it would be done. I don't know what the trouble is now. I don't know anything about it. I think my lands are all cut up. I have never asked that be done, but I understand it has been done. I don't know why it was done. My treaty said that it would never be done unless I wanted it done, that anything I did not want to be done contrary to that treaty would not be done. I never made these requests. I went through death for this cause, and I now hold the release this government gave me. I served the Father faithfully, and as a reward, I regained my country back again, and I and my children will remain on it and live upon it as we did in the old time. I believe it. I know it is right. I know it is justice. I hear the government is cutting up my land and is giving it away to black people. I want to know if this is so. It can't be so, for it is not the treaty. These black people, who are they? They are Negroes who came in here as slaves. So, guys, peep game. This man is uneducated. This man can't speak, can't read, write English. This man is living in Oklahoma knowing nothing but that his folks were moved from Alabama to Oklahoma. They lost their land. He fought in this union to help free the slaves, even though he didn't have to. And the government is reneging on their promise. And now the government wants to slice up the land and give some of it to the free black slaves. Well, this is where history gets nuanced. This is where history gets complicated. There were some civilized tribes, quote unquote civilized tribes, that held slaves, and they were ordered to make those slaves a part of their tribe, and they were ordered to give them land. These are not the people that he's referring to. He's referring to black slaves. These are Indians that have been mingled in with Africans, that have been mixing now and interbreeding with Europeans, Indians, and Africans. These are people that he has no connection to, no connection with. He's saying straight up, who are they? I don't know these folks. All kinfolk ain't skinfolk. Why are you giving them parts of our land? These are Negroes who came in here as slaves. They have no right to this land. It was never given to them. It was given to me and my people, and we paid for it with our land back in Alabama. The black people have no right to it. Then can it be that the government is giving it, my land, to the Negro? I hear it is that they're selling it. This can't be so. It wouldn't be justice. I am informed and believe it to be true that some citizens of the United States have title to land, and that was given to my fathers and my people by the government. If it was given to me, what right has the United States to take it from me without first asking my consent? That I would like to know. There are many things that I don't know and I can't understand, but I want to understand them if I can. I believe the officers of the United States ought to take care of the rights of me and my people first, and then afterwards look out for their own interests. I have reason to believe, and I do believe, that they are more concerned with their own welfare than the welfare of rights of the Indian. Lots of them are. I believe some of them are honest men, but not many. I plan out fiat to dispossess himself of all thought or wish to do me or my country wrong. He should never think of doing wrong to this country or to the rights of my people. After he has done that, then maybe he can do something for himself in that regard, but first he must protect the Indians and their rights in this country. He is the servant of the government, and he is sent here to do that, and he should not be permitted to do anything else. Hacho goes on to say, all that I am begging of you, honorable senators, is that these ancient agreements and treaties wherein you promise to take care of me and my people be fulfilled, and that you will remove all the difficulties that have been raised in reference to my people and their country, and I ask you to see that these promises are faithfully kept. I understand you are the representatives of the government sent here to look into these things, and I hope you will relieve us. That is all I desire to say. In response, and interrogatory by the chairman of the committee, the old Indian responded, oh, yes, I am a farmer. I have a farm and a home there on it. I used to have horses and hogs and cattle, but I have precious few left now. The white people have run all through me and over me and around me and committed all kinds of depredations, and what I have left is precious few. I am here and stand before you today, my fathers, as a man of misery. I am here appealing to you to have the laws carried out. And guess what, guys? After this excellent speech, the ruling elite did what they wanted to do when they divvied up and made land allotments and moved in a bunch of people and created the state of Oklahoma. And this address, again, this address to the Senate, let's see the date on this address. I believe they said earlier it was 19. What was the date of this address? Can we get a date? Can we get a date? When did he go to the Senate? I'm going to Google it real quick. When did Chito Hacho go to Senate? Um, so 1906. So he gave the speech to Senate in 1906, and that last Indian rebellion that he enacted with black folks, let's see if we can find a date on that. Let's see. Matter of fact, it might be better if I just Google it again. What year was Crazy Snake Rebellion? Crazy Snake Rebellion was March 1909. So as you can see here, 1906, he's pleading to the Senate. He's saying, hey, these folks ain't really my people. I don't really know them like that. You know, you giving them my land, you breaking the treaties. But a few years later, when those folks do come to Oklahoma, he protects them, he rides for them, and they create a partnership. They create an alliance. And because of that alliance, what do? They wanted to break up the Creek Black encampment and arrest Chito Hacho because he was a conservative leader. Earlier, we read that they ended up shooting some of them, jailing like 42 of them or something like that. Yeah, it says here they called together a white posse to break up the black encampment. A melee ensued in which one black man was killed, a white man wounded, and 42 blacks were arrested and jailed. So, due to this account from Hacho, due to this little piece of history, we know a few things. We know, for one, for a fact, black Indians exist. Hacho, when he was talking to the Senate, even cited that Columbus found black people here, not white people. He didn't say red people, he said black people. We also know that a lot of these Indians that got assimilated, that got moved to Oklahoma, they're far removed from a lot of the black indigenous folks. These black indigenous folks were getting reclassified, killed, and enslaved as early as 1682. We're talking about the early 1900s when Chito was talking about, hey, these black folks, they're slaves. We don't really know them like that. I mean, how is this man who can't even speak, read, or write English? How is he going to know that Virginia was passing acts that combine Native Americans and Africans into one category? How would he know that as a man that's seemingly an uneducated farmer? It just makes you think, y'all. It just really makes you think. And if we juxtapose someone like Chito, who was a black Indian hero, if we juxtapose him to a black Indian sellout, let's see what we find. Just like there's Indians that rocked with the black people, that rode out for the black people, that possibly had some black heritage themselves, they hide in his mama, right? Well, guess what? There were some black Indians that were anti black. Put a one in the chat if you would like to learn about a black Indian that was anti black, a sellout as mulatto black Indian, ashamed of his blackness. Oh, Lord, oh, Lord. Let's talk about it. Put a one in the chat if y'all want to look at the other side of the coin. We already talked about an Indian legend, an Indian hero. Do y'all want to learn about an Indian sellout now? Uh-oh, looks like the people want to hear about it. Okay. Well, guys, make sure to smash the like button on the way in, share the video, hit the Cash App or the PayPal if you support the mission. But let's go ahead and take a look at a part black and anti-black Indian. Oh, yeah, that's a tongue twister. Here's the culprit right here. Here's the culprit. A sellout Negro. Let's take a look at a sellout. His name was Alexander Posley. He lived from 1873 to 1909. That's literally Chito Hacho's era. He was around doing his thing at the same time as Chito Hacho. So I'm giving you a grand juxtaposition. At the same exact time, we had a black Indian rioter, Chito, and we had a black Indian sellout, Alexander. He was a Muskogee Creek Indian journalist. Goddamn, another member of my tribe. Look how divisive members of my tribe can be. We got the sellouts, we got the riders, we got the people that want to be white passing and assimilate, and we got the people that rock with the black Indians. He was a Muskogee Creek Indian journalist and publisher in Indian Territory. He was also anti black and partly black. Yes, all that and more. Posey's father was a white orphan raised as Creek. Keep game, y'all. The Creeks was just letting anybody in at a certain point in time. They was just letting white orphans in and raising them as Indians and shit. Come on, y'all. Posey's father was a white orphan raised as Creek, and his mother was a mulatto of the Wind clan. His maternal grandmother was so much mixed with Negro as to appear very much like a full blood Negress. Posey received a formal education at the Creek Run Baptist Academy, Bacone College. He wrote columns in a newspaper he founded. And peep game, y'all, education is indoctrination. Chito, although he couldn't read and write English, he knew what was right, he knew what was wrong. Alexander Posey, he's educated by the Baptists. He's going to the Baptist college. I wonder if this didn't form his judgments and his thoughts towards black people. He founded the Ifola Indian Journal, advocating for the Muskogee Creek people to adopt more of the white man's ways. When Chito was fighting against assimilation, Alexander was fighting for assimilation. Hey guys, we should be like white people. We should like, just like be like white people and let them in the tribe. Peep game, y'all. His daddy was a white orphan. Come on. Damn, he's making us mulattoes look bad. Oh Lord, he's making us light skins look bad. God damn. He advocated for the Muskogee Creek people to adopt more of the white man's ways, including formal education, Christianity, and capitalism. He also recorded traditional Creek stories with a flair that breathed life into them, and contemporary humorous anecdotes about people in the Creek Nation, an admirable technique to be sure. Those Creek people also included Black people, who Posley describes as former slaves of the Creek Nation. In Posey's prose, the Creek and white characters speak in more standard English, but the Negro characters speak in broken English with misspelled words that is supposed to represent Black dialect. Basically, he's calling Black folks stupid. His reoccurring Black character, Uncle Dick, represents a neighbor who owns a nearby farm. Posey's father, a Confederate veteran, ran for office in the Creek Nation and sometimes sought the support of his Black neighbors. Damn. So Posey's white daddy that was adopted by the tribe is running for office, so he fakes the funk and act like he rocks with Black people, but his son is writing articles dissing Black people, is promoting anti-Black rhetoric. Okay. Uncle Dick speaks in this fabricated Negro dialect, common in the early 90s in minstrel shows and literature of that era. He is illiterate and amusingly clueless about the outside world. As Posey knows better, the Black population included folks who had lived among the Creeks before removal to Indian Territory in the 1830s. Most of them came to the Creeks already fluent in English and acted as interpreters. Other Blacks, peep game, y'all, other Blacks, which included Yamasee Indians and actual Africans. So they're clearly letting you know there were Black Indians. Some of these Black folks were Yamasee Indians. So when Chito is a little ignorant and doesn't know that those slaves in the South, some of them are Indians and only some of them are African, hey, we perish for a lack of knowledge. But it says here that before the Trail of Tears, back when the Muskogee Creek Nation, back when my tribe was still in Alabama, they had blacks that lived amongst them, Africans and Yamasee Black Indians. They were adopted into the Upper Creek clans like the clan Posey's mother came from. In Indian Territory, Black Creeks built churches and schools after the Anglo white model. Raising cattle and open stores, Boley and Tulsa, Oklahoma, were assimilationist towns founded by Black Creeks dedicated to Christianity and capitalism. Guys, we didn't realize this, but one of our historical achievements, Black Wall Street, it was a assimilationist town. It was an assimilationist town. Damn, hold on the third try. I'm gonna get it better. This is the first time having to say this word. An assimilationist town. Ding 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 ding. I finally got it right, y'all. It took me a minute. An assimilationist town. Most of you probably don't realize that Black Wall Street was adopting the white principles and models, and they were trying to model their towns after white people, and they were very successful in doing so without any white influence other than the Christianity and capitalism, which actually is a pretty big influence. So we can't just glance over that. Check this out, y'all. It says blacks were also numerous among the so-called full bloods. In plain English, they were full-blooded Black Indians. There were Black people that were full-blood Indian. Let that sink in. Come on. Blacks were also numerous among the so-called full-bloods or traditional factions who opposed assimilation and were allies of ding 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 Chito Hacho, the traditional Creek leader who led the Snake Uprising in 1901. Posey knows this too. He interviewed Chito Hacho in 1905 and reports a Negro school in Brush Hill, a town that Chito Hacho controls when he, Posey, goes there to enroll its citizens and allot their lands. Guys, peep game. Chito was fighting against the land allotment. Chito went to the Senate fighting against assimilation. At that same time, Alexander's interviewing Chito. He sees Chito has a Negro school, and he goes out there to Chito's land to work for the government to help divvy up their land. We got a black sellout, and we got a black Indian hero who was possibly a black man himself. In 1905, black people were found in all parts of the Creek Nation as traditional Indians and eager assimilationists. So, guys, it's saying right here, yet again, there was black people that were traditional Indians. So, how do so many online feel that they have the nerve to tell us that there's no such thing as black Indians when in this live stream, we've heard black Indians mentioned all throughout, all the way back to the interactions with Columbus? There were even mulattoes who fought for pro slavery Confederate faction a few decades earlier. Come on, y'all. White apologists, Oreos, if you will, sellouts, coons, Sambos. They've been around for a long time. Posey is hiding something. He is trying to distract us about the real mixed ancestry of the Creek Nation, himself included. Posey is misleading, but he is sincere about his intentions. He really believes that breaking up the large matrilineal clan parcels into individual male owned parcels will speed up assimilation and thus create a place for Creek people in the Euro capitalist system. In 1908, while going about enrolling Indians and selling their surplus land to speculators, guys, come on. Am I doing a grand job with this live stream, or am I doing a hell of a job with this live stream? Did I not give you the first side of the coin, which was Chito Hacho fighting against assimilation, fighting against the land allotments? And now at the same time, we got a black mulatto Indian fighting for it and literally divvying up land to spectators. Come on. Come on. You can't make this up. In 1908, while going about enrolling Indians and selling their surplus land to speculators, Alexander Posey drowns while crossing a rain swollen river. Oh Lord, y'all, this is my first time reading this. I ain't never gonna wish death among nobody, but good riddance. Good riddance, mother. Good riddance. That black man, that sellout, that coon, that Sambo was out there divvying up black native land for the white folks, and he happens to drown crossing a river. Okay. The ancestors work in mysterious ways. And Mike TV does not endorse hate speech of any kind. Viewer discretion is advised. Traditionalists say forces from the spirit world were punishing Posey for betraying his people. Ooh, I got goosebumps. I got to drop a bomb on that one. Yet he translated numerous oral Creek stories into English, preserving the culture as the Muskogee language declined in daily use. Ironically, again, the supposedly half witted Negroes who Posey describes build a thriving economy in increasingly white dominated Oklahoma. Some blacks, now labeled freedmen, yes, guys, when you talk about freedmen, some of them are black Indians. Not all of them are Africans, y'all. Black Indians. Some blacks, now labeled freedmen, made millions from oil revenue and built thriving cities such as Tulsa, which jealous whites destroyed in 1921. Do you see how this all comes full circle? We're now getting to Tulsa, Oklahoma, Black Wall Street. We couldn't have that if we didn't have the Trail of Tears. And then after the Trail of Tears, have the government taking away the native land and giving the land allotments. And then having the Indians fight alongside black folks and black Indians for the Union to free the slaves. Guys, it all comes full circle. It all comes full circle. Black Creeks proved the most adept at thriving by the white man's rules. Tulsa, Oklahoma, then was Black Creeks. And yet, Posey's work preserves much of the traditional Creek culture and demonstrates that Indian society could produce intellectuals in the Western tradition. Unfortunately, part of Western tradition was increasingly anti Black racism that Alexander Posey feared might be turned on himself and the Creek people as a whole. To be fair, Posey, he lived during an intense period of anti Indian and anti black racism. Perhaps in a different time, or even in some other parts of the US, he might have found a way to include the Black Creeks into the Muskogee Creek family. Even if he had lived into his 90s in the 1960s, he might have reflected differently on his own black ancestry as the larger society changed around him. We can only hope. Self hate does no good. Come on, y'all. This is wild. This is wild. So, on the one hand, we got an Indian hero. On the other hand, we got an Indian sellout. Both alive, working for different factions during the same period in history. And these actions is what leads to something like a Black Wall Street, a Tulsa, Oklahoma, and many other Black Wall Streets that were destroyed. Now, guys, before we wrap up the stream, I urge you to hit the like button if you haven't done so already. Share the video, hit the Cash App if you appreciate the mission. I mean, charge it to the game. Throw 5 on the Cash App if I just gave you a collegiate level dissertation on Black Indian history, y'all. We went deep. We went deep. We read the whole speech in full that he delivered to the Senate. He said blacks was here. He said Columbus found me, a black. Oh Lord, it gets deep over here on Mike TV. It gets deep. John Rose says, I've never heard or seen anyone cover these dudes. Something new to learn. Facts. All these online black content creators talking this native stuff. I mean, I ain't trying to diss nobody, but I'm just saying it seems like they all talking the same thing. Walter Pleckard, reclassification, Niji this, Turtle Island that. Let's get down to the real history. Let's get down to the true forgotten history. I ain't heard nobody else. But matter of fact, before I talk my shit, before I toot my horn, let me do some research, right? Because I'm the king of receipts, right? Let me just do some research. Let's go to YouTube real quick and let's type in Chito Hacho, Hacho, and see if any of these other black folks making Native American content, the Dane Callaways, the Top Cats, insert here, insert here, insert here. Let's see if anybody has done something on Chito Hacho. We got the video that I played earlier in the stream 10 years ago, made by the Oklahoma Council Studies. We got something by a news network. Oh, we got me, Mike TV. We got something 13 years ago by Red Earth Pictures. We have a baseball game from a baseball team that's named after Chito Hacho. Guys, damn near all, and then we got something from my tribe, the Muskogee Cree Nation. Damn near all these videos are 10 to 13 years old. Not a single black Aboriginal, Niji, Turtle Island, emoji, feather, buck dance twerking, none of them online is touching any of this. And I wonder why. I wonder why. All right. All right. I think I've earned the right to talk my shit. I think I've earned that right. And guys, DNA is not proof of ethnicity. It's not even admissible when you apply for tribal benefits. The only way that you can truly know your heritage, your lineage, is by doing your genealogy, not no DNA tests. I met with a brother over the weekend. He said he spent hundreds of dollars on DNA tests. He bought one DNA test that told him certain results. He bought another DNA test that gave him different results. Then one DNA test switched his results over time. It's all over the place. It's all over. And we do our consultation, and real quick, like, we're finding his ancestors on the Dawes roll, listed as Choctaw. One of them listed as Creek. So come on, if you guys have ever wondered what your family heritage truly is, the only way to know is by doing your genealogy. And if you don't know where to start, or maybe you've traced your family's tree, you got some natives in your family, but you don't know how to apply for citizenship like me and my family did, then go ahead and hit me up. Book a genealogy consultation. Consultations are $50 only for this week. After that, it's going back to its regular price of $75. But send me an email, mike@keymediapro.com. If you would like to book your consultation, put in the subject line genealogy, and we can get to it. You don't know until you take a look. Let me see what the chat's talking about before we wrap up. Let me see. Yeah, John Rowe, I ain't heard nobody cover Chito Hacho, let alone Alexander Posley. And this is basically the precursor to why we have the Black Wall Streets and everything that's been going on in Oklahoma. Let me see what y'all talking about. And we do some exclusive content over on Patreon, so make sure to become a member on Patreon. It's only $5. Yeah, shout out to New Era, always tuning in for the knowledge. Training with Sharice's amazing live stream. Appreciate you, darling. Well, actually, we're gonna get into some smoke now for the rest of the stream. We're gonna do some debate streams. So don't go anywhere, guys. As soon as this broadcast ends, there's gonna be a 10-second countdown, and then the next broadcast is gonna begin automatically. I will see you guys in just a moment. My Kim folks said we weren't on the dolls roll. Well, guess what? You don't know until you look yourself. Let's talk about it. Don't touch that dial. More content coming soon.